What's up guys, welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be making a knife with some fish hooks. So these are fish hooks that I bought on Amazon. They're relatively cheap and I bought a whole bunch. And they're all kinds of different alloys, I believe, because I did not buy the same batch. I bought multiple batches. And I'm going to put them in some acetone to make sure I get any kind of crud it might have on there or any kind of oils. These are high carbon and they do harden, so they will hold an edge, but I'm gonna be mixing them with steel powder anyways, so it will make for pretty good steel for a knife. And in honor of using fish hooks, I figured I'd make a fillet knife. Now this fillet knife is like a semi-stiff fillet knife. It's not really as flexible as I would have wanted to make it, but that's because I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm just kind of shaping it however I can and fixing it on the grind. So after I prep up all my material, we go with our canister. I have it lined up with paint on the inside already. I use white spray paint. It works the same as whiteout, so all the people that tell me why I don't use whiteout in the comments, it's essentially the same stuff. I just find that it's easier to apply with an aerosol instead of just throwing the whiteout in there and then trying to move it around, or maybe throwing a little brush in there. So it's just easier application, and it is a quick dry, so it dries in about 15 minutes. And we're pairing it up with some steel powder. This is 1090 steel powder with 2% nickel. The 2% nickel is what's going to give it that shine, similar to a 15 and 20. The only difference is that a 15 and 20 is an alloy that's already made, so the shine on it is pretty homogeneous, I believe is the correct term. It's like even distributed throughout, and in this case it's just grainy. So in the final result you will see some black dots and some lighter grain dots, and that's kind of what gives it from a distance a similar look to 15 and 20, but once you look at it close up, you can see the individual grains. First things first, we're going to press top to bottom. That way we seal our can and solidify our billet on the inside. Afterwards, we're just gonna kind of play with it. It's already solid on the inside, so we're really just moving it around and breaking off the caps so that we can have a clean release. The initial forge weld is really what does all the work. You don't need to be forge welding it multiple times. The initial forge weld from top to bottom applies pressure to where the caps can't pop off, and then the walls of the can actually supply another pressure on the sides. Since those are factory, they're not welded, they're not gonna break. So instead of them weakening, it kind of just forces everything together, and so then in that one first press it becomes a block. If I wanted to just press it once and then just let it cool down and cut it out, I could also do that. But if I play with it with the machine, it'll eventually break off the welded caps that I put on and be able to slip out. So in this case I have way more material than I need, so I'm thinning it down to a 1/4 inch thick. And once I get my 1/4 inch thick, I'm gonna cut off the ends and just get the material that I need for making my billet. And from there I'm gonna just forge out my knife. So with my material portioned out, I'm going to start drawing a little bit of the tang. I'm not really going to work on drawing out the tang very much. All I'm doing is isolating it so I have somewhere to grab it, and I'm going to start forging in the tip. As I said in the beginning of the video, I want to make this a type of fillet knife, kind of semi-stiff bony knife. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to forge out this rectangle into a very long point. And so I'm beginning with the hammer, and I'm just gonna slowly forge it out by forging from the center and then slowly drawing it out. If I start trying to forge my tip, I'm gonna end up just forging a tip and not really drawing the material out, and I'll probably get a fish mouth on the point as well. So I'm starting about halfway through the rectangle part of my blade and then slowly working it out. Now that I'm comfortable with how much I've drawn out, I can easily go to the press and draw out the rest. If I had done that originally with the press, I would have ended up just bending my material, but since I was hammering it, I was moving it slower, and I was actually condensing it a little bit as I was hammering it. So it actually thickened up, and then afterwards I just went and did the rest with the hydraulic press. In this part of the build, while I was hammering it, I was trying to be careful. I didn't want to over thin it out. I wanted to leave the tip a little bit thick, like roundish, not really just try to forge a tip in. And that is because I know that once I grind it, I'm gonna have to move it either up or down depending on where I end up, because I know that I'm gonna have to do some modifications to this, because I'm really just doing it off of what the picture I have on the top of my head, and not really going in with a big plan. I'm not the kind of guy that draws out my knives, though I should definitely draw and plan my knives better, but most of the time I just have an idea and I just roll with it. I am planning to do some more high-end, more sophisticated builds, and I think on those I will sit down and draw out what I need to do. I'm thinking of making a Bowie soon, and I definitely need to draw out the Bowie and figure out what steps I'm going to take to make sure that everything falls in place the way it should. Here it's kind of more by feel and the knowledge that I leave myself just enough wiggle room to be able to fix it on the grinder. One more thing that I'm also keeping in mind is I don't want to forge my material too thin, because I want to be able to grind out any kind of scale or any kind of divots that I might have in after the forging. I don't want this to have a forged finish, so to be able to do that, since it is Damascus, I'm definitely leaving myself a little bit of meat. That way I can grind off of both sides and not really have too many issues with that. As for the shape of the knife, I'm really just kind of winging it, going by feel. Once I started forging it, I kind of had a feel for what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to thin it out, and I knew I wanted to have a decent bit of curve to it. That way it would go through whatever I'm cutting better. So the grinding on this knife was relatively simple. I didn't really have much to grind off on it. I just kind of did a little bit of touch up on the handle, make sure it was comfortable, make sure I had the right spacing that I needed and it wasn't too long or too short. And that was pretty much it. I didn't want a very big hefty handle. I kind of wanted it to be very, very simple and very, very small. As for the blade portion, you can see how much material I left towards the tip, and now here I'm deciding how much tip I actually want, where I want the placement of the tip to be, and how I want it to sit on the actual knife. Afterwards, all I'm doing is cleaning off the rest of the scale and make sure I have clean steel all throughout. That way I can get ready for my heat treat. Since this is a kind of fillet knife, kind of boning knife type thing I'm doing, I'm definitely gonna take off as much material. I want it to be as light as possible, but at the same time I'm not looking to make a flimsy knife either. Alright guys, so I'm ready for heat treat. Two minor little things towards the tip. I have some cracks, you can see them right there, that little crack, and on this side I have a longer crack, you can see it right there, but they're superficial. So I'm thinking that since I'm gonna grind this guy really thin, I'm pretty sure I'll grind those out. If not, then I'll just pull the grind back. But I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to grind those out. Other than that, the knife is prepped. It's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. The handle's nice and comfortable. And I think this one's going to come out pretty nice. Man, whenever I quench, I'm starting to think I need to make a new quench tank. It's starting to become a hassle quenching in this very, very thin tank that I'm using. Alright guys, so we are out of the temper. The knife came out very nice. It is majorly warped to one side. Not sure if that's visible. Flip it around, and as you can see, we're pretty warped to one side, but that's cool. Carbide peen, you already know the deal. Other than that, very nice, very nice. And as always, I want to take a moment to thank this carbide peen hammer. If you are a knife maker and you don't have one, get one. It'll be a very, 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 very important investment. And it's only a few bucks if you make it yourself, or like $100 if you buy it online. But it's definitely a game changer. for the majority of my knives, I don't really like to put in bevels before I heat treat, just because it's easier to keep them straight or semi-straightish after I quench, because I can just put it between two boards or two pieces of aluminum, and then they will generally be relatively straight. And so I don't like to have to chase my edge whenever I do my heat treat and my final grind, so I find it's easier for me. A lot of people do in a small bevel before they heat treat, but to each their own. Alright guys, so we're going to move on to our handle. For our handle material, I bought these guys at Pops Knife Supply. They are a opal, I believe, G10. They're gonna suit this knife well, since, you know, fish hooks, the knife, blue, ocean. You know what, I'm just trying to justify it. So this is gonna look good. I'm gonna do the black liners because I'm gonna do the edge all the way around, black pins, the usual. But I think it's gonna go very well with these guys. I'm very hopeful. And they're a little hefty though. That's the only thing that really is making me wonder if this is right for this knife, since this is a very light knife. But whatever, I want to use them, so I'm going to. So hopefully this pairs well, good contrast, and our edge comes out nice. After I prep the handle, I'm gonna go on ahead and start my hand sanding, and hopefully I can get this guy glued up tonight, so tomorrow I can finish up the knife and etch it. So a quick word about this material. I bought it at Pops Knife Supply when I did my last shipment of steel that I ended up ordering, because I'm planning on doing a decent bit of Damascus. Namely, I want to start working on mosaics soon. And so to be able to do that, I had to buy a whole bunch of steel. And I saw these scales online and I thought they looked pretty nice, so I ordered them. And they're very pretty shade of like teal, bluish green. And I figured, well, this is kind of like a fillet knife and fish hooks, so I figured a blue theme would be nice. This stuff is very powdery though. It grinds very easily and it's very, very soft on the grinder. So definitely use some good respiration and PPE whenever you're using it, because this stuff is very, 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 very dusty. So this is the point in the build where I ask you to like, comment, and subscribe if you like what I do, if you like my builds, if you want to help support the channel and help support the growth. I've had a pretty good growth. I've been doing this for a few years, and I'm really appreciative of all the people that help the channel grow. And if you like what I do, you can be one of those people that helps the channel grow by hitting that subscribe button. It's completely free and I would really appreciate it. Also, if you like this knife is available on my website right now. Well, it was available when the video came out at 7 in the morning, but if somebody hasn't bought it, it is available right now on my website, so you can definitely go cop that if you want to. And that is another form of supporting the channel. As well as I have a karambit I'm putting up there that I found hanging around at my house that I made a while back. I'm also putting that for sale, so that is also for sale, as well as a whole bunch of other goodies that I have on there that you should definitely go check out if you're looking for a cool knife or just a new toy, or if you just have the disposable income lying around and you want to help support a small business and a small YouTuber. I would really appreciate that. Now back to the build. I've had some people tell me I make pretty good knives, and I agree with them. I've been getting better over the years. And one thing they told me, I was a little bit subpar versus a, you know, top-notch knife maker is my handles. And I kind of agree. My handles are very simplistic, very, very simplistic. Yeah, that's the word for it. I don't really put a lot of time and effort into it. I make it comfortable, but I'm not looking to do all kinds of different angles and, you know, flat planes here, flat planes there. I got to do an angle here, and all kinds of stuff. I kind of just go to whatever is comfortable in my hand and would kind of work with this knife. So every knife is different, every handle is different, and I don't really have a, you know, template or style that I use on my knives. Some knives have Coke bottles, some knives are simpler like this, and some knives I kind of just try to make a wall handle, even though they don't always come out as nice. So here's a final look at the knife. You can see the Damascus, it looks extremely nice, and that is why I do it all the way around, because if I'm making a Damascus knife, I might as well show all of it and not leave the backs and the tang ground out. So as always, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.